Well, hi there, and welcome to the Sovereign CEO podcast, where we talk about location-independent business, moving to a less bad country, or at least setting up an international backup plan, and do all these things for very little money, reducing your taxes, escaping the collapsing West, and various other fun stuffage. I used to work with a guy many years ago who used to say stuffage and stuffage. I'm going to tell you a story, true story. This is about 20 years ago, maybe a little more than 20 years ago, 22, 23 years ago, somewhere in there. And I used to listen to something that you've probably never heard of, you young bucks. That's a term you probably haven't heard of either. You young guys probably haven't heard of this. It's called something called talk radio. We used to have this. And you used to have things called radios. And you listen to them in your car and people would talk about politics and stuff. And that was a form of entertainment 20 plus years ago for many decades. It still exists today, but no one except very old people listen to it because podcasts have kind of replaced it. But back then, before the internet, or there was the internet, but before podcasts, before social media, you had talk radio. And I used to listen to talk radio. I used to listen to right-wing talk radio and left-wing talk radio. I'm a libertarian. There is no such thing as libertarian talk radio because everyone hates libertarians. So I was stuck, unfortunately, listening to right-wing talk radio and left-wing talk radio. For the most part, right-wing talk radio. And I actually enjoyed some of it. And I used to listen to a guy, again, some of you young people have no idea who this is, a guy named Rush Limbaugh, who is the king of talk radio, as big, if not bigger, in some respects than Howard Stern. And he ruled the political talk radio sphere for a good 20 plus years. And listening to him talk, and he was a right-wing, strong, hardcore right-wing Republican conservative. And this day I was driving my car, listening to talk radio, listening to Rush Limbaugh talk, and he was angry. He was upset. He was pissed off. This is about 20, 23 years ago, just for context. And he was bitching about not liberals, not left-wingers, not Democrats. He was bitching about Republicans. I went, well, this is interesting. I'm going to listen to this. And he ranted for about 15 minutes. And he's basically said, in a nutshell, he said, these goddamn Republicans, we tell them to make government smaller and we vote for them and we campaign for them and we caucus for them and we get them into office and then they make government bigger. We tell them to cut regulations and then we do all this work and they get into office and then they increase regulations. And we tell them to fight the Democrats on this and fight the Democrats on that and they get in office and then they cooperate with the Democrats or they do the same thing the Democrats did, they just name it something different. He ranted and screamed. He was angry. Sometimes he get really angry. He was angry, red-faced, screaming into his microphone about these goddamn Republicans, how they're screwing us, they suck, they're not conservative, they're ruining the country, they're destroying our country, they're destroying our government, and he goes on and on and on. And finally, after 50 minutes of screaming about this, he comes to his solution. Okay, now here's his solution. I'm like, okay, this should be good. What's the solution? Now, what do you think his solution was? Was his solution to start voting for Democrats? To punish the Republicans and scare them and get them back to doing the right thing? No. Was his solution to vote for third parties? To again scare the Republicans and remove their vote as a protest vote? No. Was his solution to just not vote? You know what? Fuck you. And just stop voting. And that way they'd still get elected, but they wouldn't get a mandate because only a small percentage of Americans would be voting for them? Was that his solution? No. His genius solution was to vote for more Republicans. I'm not kidding. Not even vote for the right kinds. Just, we got to vote. After ranting and screaming about how horrible Republicans are from a right-wing conservative viewpoint, his answer was to vote for more Republicans. And I remember in my car when this happened, I remember going, what? And looking at the radio like, what? And this was about the time when I started figuring out that conservatives were just as full of shit as left-wingers, just in a very different way. I'm like, wait a minute, you just ranted and screamed that Republicans are fucking all this up, so your answer is to vote for more of them? And I literally said at the time, I said, that will make Republicans worse. That will exacerbate all the things about Republicans that you are bitching about. If you keep voting for them, they're going to say, oh, good, these guys are going to vote for us no matter what we do, so we can just do more of it. Now, let me ask you a question. In the last 23 years since that happened, have American Republicans gotten worse or better? They've gotten worse. Republicans have gotten worse every decade. And as I've talked about many times before, the two last Republican presidents George W. Bush and your God, many of you, Donald Trump, increased the size of government not only beyond where it has ever been in American history, but in world history. The world has never seen, throughout all of human history, the Roman Empire, the British Empire, Portuguese Empire, Genghis Khan's empire, China back thousands of years. No empire has seen government as big, as powerful, and as expensive in terms of GDP as the American government. I have quoted these numbers before. I'm happy to do this again. Before the pandemic, see, now it's even worse, but pre-pandemic, okay, the US government, if you had federal spending, state spending, and local government spending, all three of those things, was $8 trillion with a T dollars a year. The entire GDP of the United States back when this happened was only 20 trillion. Okay? Almost half of that is government. Why is that? Is that because of Democrats? No. It's not because of Democrats. It's not because of socialists. It's not because of feminists. It's not because of Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton. Yes, those people are part of the problem. They are factors as to why the United States government is huge and bloated and directly responsible for the collapse of the Western world. Yes, but the primary reason was Republican presidents and Republicans in Congress. And if you don't believe me, I suggest you do a Google search for those many charts and graphs. There's many of them all over the internet that show the size of government and how government increased, the rate of size of increase and spending increases under Republican presidents versus under Democrat presidents. And you will see that going all the way back to Ronald Reagan, the Republican presidents were growing government far more, orders of magnitude more than the Democrats were. Now, to be clear, and I always have to throw that out there, I am a libertarian. I have never voted for a Democrat in my entire life, unlike Donald Trump, who voted for Democrats most of his adult life. Hint, hint. So I am completely opposed to the left wing. I disagree with the left on just about everything that comes out of their mouths. I have never voted for a Democrat in my entire life. I think socialism is evil. On and on and on. I am not a left winger. I am completely opposed to the left. I am a minarchist libertarian. I hate left-wing big government more than you do if you are a Trump supporter or the modern day version of a right winger. When this podcast gets uploaded, it will be after the midterm elections in the United States. And prior to that, there was a lot of excitement, stupid excitement with right-wingers saying, the red wave, the red wave. All right, guys, a bunch of corporatist, warmongering, big government Republicans will be voted into office, so we should be happy. Why? Why does that make you happy? Why is it different to vote for someone who has an R by their name, who jacks up the size of government, further goes into debt, further forces you to print money and or raise taxes down the road, than if you have the same person doing that with a D by their name? Why is it better? Why is it better? Why is it better? I showed at my blogs before the pandemic where Donald Trump was increasing deficit spending faster than any other American president in human history. Under Donald Trump, before the pandemic, so you can't blame that, the national debt actually went up $1 trillion in just 6 months, which has never before happened at any time in human history. That was under a Republican and a man that many of you worship as a god, Donald Trump. During the pandemic, don't even get me started. The amount of money that was printed, $5-6 trillion, don't even get me started. But even before that, George W. Bush, when he was elected during his 8 years, put government growth on steroids, the likes of which no one in my lifetime had ever seen, the likes of which no American has ever seen outside of World War II. And at least World War II, you had World War II. That was the excuse. Was there a World War II when George W. Bush was president? No, there wasn't. There was wars, but not World War II. And I've mentioned this before, and I'm happy to say this again. During George W. Bush's increase in government spending, they analyzed where the money went in terms of his budget increases. And I forget the exact number, I believe it was around 80, 81, 82% of those spending increases had nothing to do with the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, or the war on terror. It was just pure socialism from Republicans. Republicans fucking suck. Republicans are the direct reason, one of the biggest and most direct reasons why America is collapsing. And you right-wingers, you Trump supporters who get excited when Republicans win elections or could win elections, you guys are either just stupid and you don't know any of the facts, which means you shouldn't fucking vote, please. My God, this is one of the many reasons I'm against democracy. Or you're insane. You've just lost your ability to think rationally because of where we are in the world today and the collapse of the West and the collapse of the United States. And I realize a lot of right-wingers have gone insane over the past 10 years. I understand that. Voting for Republicans isn't going to fix a goddamn thing. Voting for Republicans will continue to make your country worse. And by the way, if you're not an American and you're listening or watching this podcast, that goes for you too. If you live in a Western country and you vote for the less left party, that is still for massive government, massive government spending, massive deficit spending, massive money printing, all these things that are destroying Western civilization, this goes for you too. Now, I'm not saying you should vote for left-wingers or socialists. They suck too. But at least in American history, I just proved to you, and you can prove it to yourself with a few Google searches, they're actually less bad in terms of government growth than modern-day Republicans. Now, let me answer the argument that I know some of you are going to type into the comments. Well, Caleb, those are politicians. Those aren't Republican people. Wrong. I've done several articles about this at my blogs back when I used to talk about politics. Let me give you several examples. If you look at scientific surveys they've done, I will rattle off a few examples. And you can Google this if you don't believe me, okay? Most Republicans, not left-wingers, not Democrats, most Republicans think that America's economic system should be more fair, quote unquote, like Sweden. Most Republicans want more laws to protect the environment. Most Republicans, not Democrats, Republicans want more common sense gun control laws. Okay? And when I say most, I mean at least 50%. It can be 51% or 80%, but it's more than 50%. Most Republicans want some kind of paid, free, quote unquote, government healthcare. Republicans. I can give you many more examples. I will give you a few. When Bernie Sanders was running for president, he went on the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe Rogan's audience, this is factual, leans right, is either right, hard right, or leans right. Okay, that's the majority of his regular audience. Okay, especially people who leave comments. I suggest, if it's still on YouTube, to go look at the comments when Bernie Sanders was a guest on the Joe Rogan podcast. And you will see nothing but praise from these right-wing Republicans and these right-wing modern-day quote-unquote conservatives. I was shocked as I paged down these comments when Bernie Sanders was spouting off all of his socialist bullshit. And the comments were basically, wow, I've never really listened to this guy. He has some really good ideas. Wow, I've never really paid attention to this guy. He's pretty good. Wow, this guy's actually really great. Wow, this guy's good. Wow. It was positive praise for Bernie Sanders, an open, admitted socialist. Now, am I saying Bernie Sanders has no good points? He has some. We shouldn't be in all these goddamn wars. Of course, I agree with that. But does that make socialism a good idea? More welfare state spending? No. Are you insane? No. You right-wingers have got, and this isn't going to happen, so I'm speaking philosophically now, because this is going to happen. You guys are addicted to people like Trump, and you're addicted to voting for Republicans, and I'm not going to change that. That's one of the main reasons I left the United States. The United States did now collapse, and I don't care, because I'm on the other side of the world. Whatever. But in a perfect world, you right-wingers, you quote-unquote conservatives, you tradcons, you Trump supporters have got to detach yourself from this umbilical cord you have about getting excited when Republicans win elections. God, it's stupid. It's so dumb. Do you know the last time we had a Republican president in the United States that actually made government smaller, that was actually fiscally responsible? Was it Trump or Bush? No, they're fiscal socialists when it comes to the amount of money they spent. So fuck, was it Reagan? Fuck no, are you kidding? The amount of spending he increased? Oh my God, was it Nixon? No, you have to go all the way back to Eisenhower in the 1950s. That's how far you have to go back to find a Republican that was actually fiscally responsible, at least to some degree. And even with fucking Eisenhower, He reduced spending, but by the end of his administration, he raised it back up again. Okay. Now, if you love big government, then fine. Come out and say it. Be a man and come out and say, I love it when Trump spends trillions of dollars in new spending. I think that's great. Come out and say it publicly so we can all critique your belief structure. I am very proud of my political beliefs and my philosophies. I will proudly say that I'm a libertarian and I think the size of government should be reduced about 90%. And I believe that 100%, and I'm proud to say it, and I'm proud to debate anyone on this if you disagree, because the facts are on my side. Strangely enough, whenever you bring up the fact that Donald Trump, George W. Bush, these other Republicans jack government spending up beyond the socialists do, all these Republicans and right-wingers and Trump supporters just kind of run away or change the topic. Why? Why? Why is that? Maybe it's because you know that Republicans are horrible, including Trump, and maybe you're just insane and you keep voting for people who are horrible. Now, if your answer is, well, we got to be realistic, we only have two options, we got to vote for a Democrat or Republican, so we got to vote for the lesser of two evils. I suggest you go to my YouTube channel and watch the video where I do a deep dive on Trump's presidency, and I spend about 10 minutes addressing that stupid excuse, that lesser of two evils excuse, which is the number one reason America has been destroyed over the past 30 years, of people saying, we have these two horrible people, we better vote for this less horrible person who is also very horrible. I address that in great detail in that Donald Trump video on my YouTube channel, on the Sovereign CEO channel. I suggest you go check that out. I address all those stupid points there. It's insanity. So no, that's not the answer. What is the answer? You know what the answer is, Sovereign CEO? The answer is set up your own location-independent business and then move to a less bad country, or at least set up an international backup plan. So when the United States collapses in our lifetime, which it will because of you Republicans, then you can leave and go somewhere else less bad. That's the answer. The answer is not getting excited about the red wave. The answer is not getting excited about maybe Trump might get reelected. The answer is not getting excited about Ron DeSantis or any of these other fucking morons that you right-wingers get all excited about. Those are not the answers. Now, I understand that it is fun to make left-wingers mad, and that's the problem. Many of you Trump supporters are now addicted to making left-wingers mad instead of actually doing the things necessary to save your country, which is now impossible, and or to save yourself, which is possible if you follow my advice. And I'm not the one who said that. Ben Shapiro, another person that you guys worship, Ben Shapiro said this. Ben Shapiro said the problem with the right is focused on making the left mad rather than defeating the left, which is why the left keeps winning. He's right. That's correct. You guys have all lost your fucking minds and you think this is a big video game. Oh, look, they're mad that Trump's going to come back to Twitter. Haha, they're mad. Isn't this fun? While your country collapses around you because you keep voting for Republicans. Yeah. I realize that 90% of you right-wingers are going to ignore what I'm saying and keep getting excited about voting for Republicans and having Democrats lose elections. I realize that 90% of you are too far gone. This podcast is for those rational 10% of you. Those 10% of you Trump supporters, right-wingers, or ex-Trump supporters who are able to still think rationally and realize, hopefully, that voting for these people and certainly getting excited about these people winning or losing or what have you is literally a waste of your time, and not only waste your time, but contributes to the downfall of your own country when you should be spending time saving yourself, and those of you with families, saving your family. Focus on that first. And I've said this before. If you're making $85,000 a year location independent through your own business that you control, and you live outside the United States, and then at that point, you really want to focus on politics and voting for Republicans who keep destroying the United States, go ahead at that point, fine, because at least you're protected. But if you're in the United States and you don't have location-independent income, and you're going to go down with the ship when, not if, when the United States collapses in our lifetimes, why are you voting for these politicians? Why are you getting excited about this? Why are you getting happy about this? Or even, the reverse is true, getting mad about Joe Biden being elected, getting furious that Trump wasn't president after January 6th or whatever. Do you know how much money Andrew Henderson, Nomad Capitalist, made when Biden became president? Because all these crazy Trump supporters said, oh my God, well, now that Biden is president, now America's collapsing. See, now that it's 2021, now America, everything was fine prior to 2021. The America was doing great prior to 2021 when Joe Biden was president. But now that Joe Biden is, oh, fuck, now we're all fucked. Now we're fucked. Just as stupid. America's fucked either way. It's fucked if Bernie Sanders is president, Joe Biden is president, Donald Trump is president, Ron DeSantis is president, Hillary Clinton is president, or any other person you can name. If I was president, if Rand Paul was president, it doesn't fucking matter, guys. I've said this 10,000 times. Your window of saving the United States was around the mid-1990s, maybe the late 1990s at the latest. I'm sorry, you missed that window by a long stretch. And people like me, even back in the 90s, were saying, guys, you got to stop voting for these Republicans. I was saying that in the 90s. I was a Ross Perot guy, and I was right. And everything Ross Perot said turned out accurate, didn't he? Who was not a Republican and not a Democrat. He was a third-party candidate. So if you are one of those few rational right-wingers, please think about this. Consider where you spend your time. Consider where you spend your emotional energy, because you only have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of emotional energy in any given day or week or month. And if you blow that out the window by getting happy when Republicans win or angry when Republicans lose, when Republicans are more responsible for the collapse of the United States, both the politicians and the voters, than the Democrats are, who are also horrible, what the hell are you doing with your life? You could be spending that time building your location-independent business, looking to Five Flags your lifestyle, looking for international options. That's what you should be focused on, not this Republican crap. It's so funny. And, you know, I feel completely less concerned about this now that I don't live in the United States, and now I don't care anymore. Once you move to the United States, you really stop caring. I barely gave a shit when I was in the United States. Now I really don't care. I just look at these guys on YouTube saying, oh, the red wave, I'm so excited for these corporatist, big government, socialist Republicans are going to take charge. Oh my God. Hey man, do whatever you want. It's your country. It's not my country anymore. I don't care. Have fun with it. But maybe those few of you who are rational enough, maybe I've helped move the needle a little bit to the direction of rationality, objectivity, long-term security, and long-term happiness for yourself, which you'll never get getting excited or pissed off about Republicans. Cool. All right. I'll see you next week in the next podcast. Have fun. Bye.